Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terror Podcast, Season 10, Episode 42. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for being with us this Wednesday, Steelers Nation. We got a game day tomorrow, so we got a lot to talk about today. Dave, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm probably doing a little bit better than you are. You got all that snow on the ground up there, and a little bit chilly. It's just clear and brisk here early morning in Vegas.
Yeah, but I am indoors, so I am A-okay. I do not plan on going outside for the rest of the day. And you can probably expect some wintry conditions. Not sure what it's like in Cleveland, but I'm sure it's probably pretty similar to Pittsburgh right now. So you're going to have kind of a potential winter wonderland. For tomorrow's game, we got a jam-packed show today. A little bit later on, we have Scott Petrak. He covers the Browns. We'll talk to him and get his thoughts on Cleveland Steelers seeing the Browns for the first time this season. But Dave, before we do that, let's talk about the here and now with the Steelers injury report. Got some positive news yesterday. James Conner with that shoulder and Ramon Foster with a concussion. Looks like they're both going to be back for Thursday's game against Cleveland. Both practiced in full yesterday, and you can run through the rest of the report. But that's the notable thing. Conner and Foster should be good to go, and obviously getting Conner back is massive for the rushing attack.
Yeah, I think so, especially if they can use him effectively and that line can block it up, because I think this is one of those games where you're going to have to probably lean on the running game a little bit there. So as you said, James Conner and Ramon Foster both look to be on track to return to action. Both of them, of course, have missed the last two games. Ramon Foster with a concussion, James Conner with a shoulder, of course. Barring something unforeseen, they'll get those guys back, and they'll be rested too, so maybe that'll help out a little bit. Limited in practice on Tuesday, and from what I can make of it, practice was indoors and kind of a walkthrough kind of situation there. Were Ola Adeni with a hip and Anthony Chicklow with some sort of rib issue. Be interesting to see if either or both will be able to play, by Thursday night. I'm going to guess that they are, but that's just a guess. Mike Tomlin certainly made it sound like both of them were going to be kind of questionable to start the week there. So I think the injury report, obviously today when it comes out later today, should be the final one before the game on Thursday night. Should give a little bit of clarity. If both those guys are questionable or better, one would think they are going to suit up. Mike Tomlin's got a long history of questionable players playing in games there, so that's what we're kind of going to look for there. Not practicing on Tuesday were Ryan Switzer with a back, running back Benny Snell with a knee, fullback Roosevelt Nix with a knee, and Marquise Pouncey was given the day off, not injury related. Benny Snell and Roosevelt Nix, I'm almost pretty sure are not going to play. I think Tomlin said as much about both earlier in the week here during his Monday press conference there. Ryan Switzer, we'll see. With that back, I'm not leaning either way there. I'm kind of leaning toward him not playing, but I've been wrong about that kind of stuff before, so we'll have to see when it comes to there. So Benny Snell, Roosevelt Nix, expect those two guys to be out. We'll see about Switzer, Adeni, and Chicklow, because those guys seem to be the most questionable as we get into Wednesday afternoon here.
If Switzer can't go, do you think this team makes a roster move? Do they promote a Tevin Jones? Do they roll with four receivers? And if they do promote somebody, would that move have to come today? Or could they just travel and take Tevin Jones and then have him officially called up for Thursday? How does that work? Do you know?
I was trying to think back how that works on Thursday games.
Right. I imagine today, they would announce it today because he would travel.
Yeah, I'm trying, because it seemed like even on this Monday night game this past week, didn't the team make a move right, the afternoon of the game? I forget how that works on non-Sunday games.
The 49ers activated a tight end off of Pup this week, right? Because Kittle was out.
Yeah, but didn't they do that on Monday?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, it was on Monday. Yeah, I'm agreeing with you.
So, yeah, I'll have to look at the deadline. I meant to look at that before we got on, Alex. I apologize for that. So it will. You would think, though, with them traveling, whether or not they have until Monday or Thursday or not, the Steelers are probably pretty good about going ahead and getting that transaction in.
Mm-hmm.
So I would think that if any transactions are going to be made, they'll probably be made maybe, later today by 4:00 or just after 4:00 if they are allowed to do it on game day as well too there. But Mike, that's a good question to pose. What would they do if Ryan Switzer can't go? I'm going to answer that with a question. Will we see a guy like maybe Sutton Smith promoted up to the 53 to maybe help on special teams and maybe even get a snap or two at fullback, or is it just too short of a week for that?
Yeah, my guess is too short of a week. I assume that at least one of Adaney or Chicolo, and hopefully both will be able to go, so that gives you at least 3 outside linebackers. I mean, I'd have to look at the whole special teams depth chart, but you can probably make it work without Sutton Smith. My guess is even if Switzer's out, they're going to stick with just 4 receivers, because even if you call up a Tevin Jones, he's not offering you anything that Switzer is capable of doing, but maybe they do. I don't want to discount that either, so we'll just have to see what Switzer's status is, and if he can't go, I mean, putting the roster move aside, I would assume your kick returner is going to be Tony Brooks-James, and then Johnny Holton could be in the mix too, but it'll likely be Brooks-James, and then Deontay Johnson as your punt returner.
Yeah, I think there have been a little bit of rumblings maybe about Cameron Sutton, but he hasn't returned a punt, this year as well too.
His whole career, Steelers career.
I mean, here's the thing. I mean, the guy was good at it during his college career. And it's been something. I wouldn't say I've been pounding the table hard for it, but why not? At this point, the biggest concern. Look, it's been a concern both return units for the Steelers so far. Again, this year. Now, Tomlin doesn't obviously have a long history of putting defensive players back there to do that kind of stuff. So. Yeah, roll the dice there. I don't know what to expect when it comes to returns because of the way they bounced, Switzer and Johnson and Tony Brooks-James around and all. I think they're still trying to find what's going to be the good combination. I tell you what, this is my mantra for the rest of the year: catch the ball and run straight. That's it. That's my scheme. That's my Danny Smith scheme right now.
I'll pass it along to him because I agree with you. And I mean, Sutton's interesting. He's always in the return line in training camp. But yeah, I mean, what's the last defensive player to return anything for the Steelers? Like Joe Burnett? I mean,
well, did Gilbert return a kickoff or something?
Oh, well, okay, that's probably not a good thing for defensive players going forward because he was awful at it. But yeah, you're right. Justin Gilbert did do a little bit of kick return work, but punt return work is even thinner. I mean, yeah, it's been a while. So my guess is Deontay Johnson, Tony Brooks-James be your return men. But again, I mean, that's fine because it really can't get much worse than it's currently been. Man, as long as they take care of the football.
Yeah, ball security.
Nervous back there. Yeah.
Ball security. And look, we talked back when Deontay Johnson was drafted. One thing that stuck out with him is, man, whether it's catching it and putting it on the ground and picking back up and doing something with it, or just putting the ball on the ground. That's concerning there, and he's going to have enough on his plate, you would think, on this short week, right?
Yeah.
That I don't know.
Two of his 3 punt returns were bad Sunday. He had the one that he muffed, which he just ran around and should have just went down. The other one he let bounce and then had to catch it off of a bounce from an awkward position, and got a couple yards out of it, but that was still. Why just let the ball bounce in the first place? But you brought up a good point. I wanted to talk to you briefly about this. On a short week, both teams have to deal with it, obviously. I know the players were asked all week, do you hate the short week? And no one likes a short week. You don't like a short week. I don't like a short week. The players obviously don't like this either, but each team has to deal with it. But do you think there's a benefit? Do you think one team's had more of a disadvantage here being on a short week? Is it the Steelers with a young quarterback and Mason Rudolph, his first year starting, first time he's dealing with the Thursday game he's got to prepare for? Or do you think it's the Browns with a new head coach that hasn't prepared in this way for a Thursday game before? Do you think the scales tip in either way? Do you think it kind of comes out in the wash?
I think the Browns had a little bit of advantage here because they're at their place, so they get maybe this extra kind of half a day, if you will. Through whatever walkthrough or whatnot, and that they're in their own backyard, their own setting there, so maybe they get a little bit more done this week from a prep standpoint than the Steelers. Obviously, Baker Mayfield's been through the kind of the bye week, short week, or the short week type scenario. I think last year with him, so there's some familiarity with it as well too. Obviously, Mason Rudolph. This is the first time that he's going through it, and look, I just think overall, if we were to lay it out, I would have to give a slight advantage to the Browns here on a short week advantage.
I think I go the other way just because Freddie Kitchens has looked so in over his head last year. He was not the head coach whenever the Browns had their Thursday game week 3 last year. So this is his first time truly preparing for it as the head coach on a short week. And I just trust Tomlin in the stability and continuity and the kind of been there, done that on a short week before. And you're right, Cleveland is at home, but Pittsburgh can basically see Cleveland from Mount Washington, so they don't have to go too far to get there, which probably helps mitigate some of the whole road woes too. So I think I give the advantage to Pittsburgh, and again, Mason Rudolph starting, that's going to be a concern. But just when you have a coaching staff that's been there, done it before, and this is kind of old hat, they know how to prepare for this thing, I think it gives them the benefit.
How do you think weather's going to play into this?
Well, I'm not entirely sure what the forecast is. I can check at it right now. I'm not sure. I think the snow stopped in Pittsburgh today. It's supposed to be actually warming up. It's going to be like in the 40s tomorrow. So let me check the weather because it might not be as bad as it's been the last couple of days. Looks like tomorrow they're saying 38 degrees, 10% chance of precipitation, a little bit of wind. So it might not affect the game as much as you might think. But obviously, both teams really want and need to be able to establish a ground game.
Yeah, that's one thing because really – Baker's obviously played in, probably a little bit more inclement weather than Mason has to this point. So that's just something else to kind of worry about. Randy Fiedner kind of sounded a little bit worried about Mason on a short week when he talked to the media.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm to be clear, there's a concern there. How does a guy handle something new? And there are definite reasons to be concerned about this. And I think I'll pull up the quote here from Randy because that's a good segue into the coordinator's corner that happened yesterday. Fiedner did say that he thought that what Rudolph did against the Rams was basically his best game of the year. He said, quote, "I think it was his best game of consistently making decisions and putting the ball in proper spots." So that led to opportunities down the field and did a nice job with it, put balls in places where you could catch them. So, the more I've gone through Rudolph's tape from the Rams game, there's a lot of things impressive. He pushed the ball down the field. I thought his pocket presence was better. But I did do a video this morning that with his progressions, with some of his first reads, he's still struggling to consistently know where to go with the ball initially, and that is getting him into trouble. So check that video out on Steelers Depot. Yeah,
and look, it's part of the learning curve with him, So, look, this is going to be a kind of, another measuring point, I think, for him. How to deal with this short week and all. So, especially early in games.
Right. But I will say working in his favor is this guy prepares well. He's a tape junkie. I think from the neck up, he's excellent. But, yeah, Randy was asked about, do you worry about Rudolph on a short week? And Fiedner said, quote, "Yeah, no doubt. Only because it's the first time doing it with him. He's been here. He's seen a Thursday. He knows his routine. He was just on the other side imitating a visiting quarterback. It's kind of interesting to see where and how much you feel comfortable from a game plan standpoint. There's a big base that we're trying to grow in the offseason and training camp. You've got to learn that as the type of things, what you do well doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. You got to lean on that. I'm sorry. You've got to lean on that as the type of things that, what do you do well? Where can we push the envelope? Maybe push, or try to look at some other things. But shoot, we're leaving tomorrow afternoon. So basically saying it's hard to prepare with a young quarterback trying to get the game plan right on a short week. But Rudolph has been smart above the neck, a guy that prepares well. I think he's going to be better equipped to handle it than some other young quarterbacks.
Yeah, and you kind of wonder, and I asked Scott Petrak when we had him on this morning, and you'll hear that interview later in the show about, kind of the challenges of the short week and how much he expects what the Browns did against the Bills to carry over. And you would think that, just time constraints, so hard to put much in, So I wonder how much will change with the Steelers. Obviously, look, the run game is imperative. I think for both teams in this game, I think this is something that we're going to be able to look back on however the game plays out and say, oh, wow, this team ran the ball really well, and that played into a win for the team there. So if the Steelers can get, and look, not having Roosevelt Nix back this week, going to be interesting to see how James Conner has handled that because, the Steelers running game, I've harped on it for quite a while here. It hasn't been great, and it really hasn't been great when Roosevelt Nix, hasn't been in there.
Mm-hmm. This game really goes back to, who's better at their base, core, early season install kind of stuff. For the Steelers, that's going to be some core passing concept. It's going to be their power run game. For the Browns, it's going to be the things that they do well. A lot of outside zone. We'll talk about them a little bit later in the show. So it's basically just who's better at running their core basic stuff, and that's going to determine the victor in this one.
Randy went on to talk about assessing how Mason played against the Rams. He says, I think it was his best game. It was his best game of consistently making decisions and putting the ball in proper spots. So that lead to opportunities down the road, and he did a nice job with it. Put balls in places where we could catch them. Obviously, Steelers had a few drops in that game that hurt. What kind of turning point is that, if any? And we kind of said, there hasn't been that. It has been baby steps, and I think I said that the other day, and Randy Fietner said basically the same thing when he talked to the media yesterday. He says, well, it's baby steps. Again, a couple of weeks here at home. I think that you can see a little momentum going for him just in breaking the huddle, just in simple things that you take for granted, but the confidence of pushing the group in any situation, whether it be backed up, going in, I guess going in means red zone, all those type of situations, you see the growth every day there. Saw Mason do a lot, a little bit more audibling in this last game as well too. Probably taking a little bit firmer control of some protections and whatnot. So I thought that was a positive there. Obviously not a perfect game for him, but it'd been interesting to see how that thing would have played out offensively if they would have been able to maybe get a few more points on this game had not some of the drops happen, especially a few of those on third downs there. And we're going to talk about this, and I'm going to keep harping on it. Fragile offense the rest of the season here. How can this offense do, in the all-important point-producing department, especially when, because it's going to happen, at least we think it's going to happen, there's going to be a time where the defense just does not deliver the ball to the offense on maybe they deliver it to them on a long field, but how many times can we continue to expect them to turn the ball over to the Steelers or even score the defense in games? And how is the offense able? Are they going to be able to put together some long drives here, whether it be field goal or touchdown? You would hope to have at least one long touchdown drive a game, and hopefully maybe a couple others that at worst end in field goals there. So I don't think we've reached that point yet to see, how much of the load this offense can carry. And until we do, until we see Rudolph kind of have, I don't want to say a perfect game, but an even more complete game, not having the turnover worthy throws, kind of things, not missing, a few guys open. As you said, look, a couple of times he hurried through his progressions, I thought, against the Rams, and one of them, I think you even highlighted to Juju, had Juju over on the right side there, and he had even talked about ahead of this game that I got to do a better job of getting the ball in 19's hands, and he had a perfect prime opportunity to do that and missed it. On that situation there. So, and I think Randy Fietner's got to help him out as well too. No turning the back on deep down in your own end. Kind of thing. But I think there are, and you'll agree, there are visible signs of him making progress and him getting a lot more comfortable in this offense. And man, a running game, especially Thursday night, I think that would really help this kid out there, and also starting early. And boy, when I know you wrote about it yesterday or the day before, and I put a chart up. I put that in kind of a table form in a post that I did on Randy talking about Rudolph yesterday there. The start of games just flat out, first opening possession, just ugly.
Yeah, let me pull up the article there and just run through the opening possession result for each game this season, and then I'll have some nice things to say about the offense. But let's start with the negative. So this is the result on the first drive of the game the Steelers have had every single contest this year. Against New England, it was a punt. Seattle, punt. San Francisco, they got a field goal, which was off a 49ers turnover. They went 3-and-out, kicked the field goal. Bengals game,
five net yards on that possession.
right? Yeah. Bengals game, fumble, lost it. Baltimore punt, Chargers punt, Miami interception, Indianapolis interception, Rams fumble, Rams touchdown. So they have one drive that's gotten them points on an opening possession this year. That was a field goal. They're one of only 5 teams this year not to have a touchdown on their opening drive. I mean, it's just been consistently terrible starts that have actively been harmful to their defense and to their chances of winning. It's been better. The last 2 weeks have been better if they just punted on first down as opposed to the outcome that's actually happened. So you got to start faster, absolutely. But as you said, I thought Rudolph played one of his better games, and you do see progressions and signs of this offense moving forward. Is it a work in progress? Absolutely. But you get James Conner back, James Washington playing the best football of his career. Deontay Johnson's really starting to pop on tape. Offensive line has played, I think, pretty well and continuing to grow and I think get better as the season's gone along. So you do see some visible signs that this offense is finally kind of getting itself in gear just a little bit.
Yeah, you just want, there's going to be the opportunities, or there's going to come to the situations where they need to put together the 10-play, 11-play drive. You know?
We can't talk about, they're getting there, they're getting close. They actually got to do it at some point. I mean, that's what all that matters in the NFL.
What has been their longest scoring drive play-wise?
Well, they had a couple 90-plus yard drives a couple weeks ago. I forget the exact games. I can look that up. But, I mean, it's just been so far and few between.
Right, and mostly, a lot of other drives have been benefiting, obviously from field position, from turnovers or whatnot as well too. So, that we're going to be talking about that. Even if they accomplish that, which we hope they do against the Browns, we're still going to be kind of worried about that stuff for the remainder of the season here.
Sure, yeah, it's going to be painful really for much of the season. I'm trying to look at some of the longer. So they got 2 14-play drives this year. One was an 86-yard drive. Resulted in a touchdown against the Chargers. They had one against Baltimore. They went 65 yards, resulted in a field goal. They got the one drive against Miami, which I think with penalty went really basically the length of the field. So they've gotten better at sustaining drives. They're better on third down overall the last 4 weeks as opposed to the first 5 weeks of the season. But it's still some work to do.
Absolutely. Anything else from what Randy said stick out to you there?
Just talking about why Vance hasn't been involved in the offense too much this year, and I want to get your thoughts on that because I've had issue trying to pinpoint an exact reason. He talked about just less opportunities in general, which is fair. A lot more man coverage they're seeing, and just it not really working out. But anything you're seeing with McDonald, because he hasn't played particularly well this year, obviously, but there haven't been a whole lot of opportunities to get him the ball either.
Well, they tried to get it to him a couple times in his last game, and Vance dropped a couple of them there.
Yeah, I say he hasn't played his best football.
I don't know. Maybe he has to do a little bit with throwing more towards the middle of the field and the confidence level there.
Mm-hmm.
Haven't spotlighted Vance too terribly much. I mean, you're waiting to see him kind of drill one down the seam, right? I mean, look,
right.
But you go back to the game against when he came off the bench against Seattle. Down in the red zone. Couple of nice throws down the middle there. So I can't pinpoint it.
Yeah, I'm having trouble too. The good news is, and you just mentioned it, Vance McDonald is the Steelers' leading receiver in the red zone this year. I believe he has 7 receptions and 2 or 3 touchdowns. So he is doing work down there, which was the big thing I circled this year. I wanted to see him get involved in the red zone a lot more. But you're right. It just has not been his best year. I think the circumstances of not having been out there has probably hurt his numbers.
Yeah, look, and I think Scott Petrak told us, just a little while ago too, that the Browns haven't been necessarily great against some tight ends this year. I haven't looked that up to kind of confirm that though. So maybe this is an opportunity where you can maybe get him on, say, Joe Schobert or something along those lines, and kind of take advantage of that. Look, coming into this year, we both kind of thought, Vance McDonald would be career year.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if he could stay healthy, which he's been able to do so far. Knock on wood there. So here's the hope, and maybe they can start getting him more involved in the offense, and at worst case scenario, inside the red zone, and that touchdown to James Washington against the Rams the other day was the first red zone receiving touchdown by somebody other than Vance McDonald there as well too. So it really is hard to pinpoint why the opportunities haven't been there for Vance so far.
Maybe get Vance on your guy, Mac Wilson. That'd be fun this week. Wilson's playing every snap for him in Cleveland, so maybe take advantage of that. Other thing I want to note for the offense really briefly is just the emergence and the progression of Deontay Johnson. Obviously, he had the drop, and there's still some ball security concerns that have to get fixed. No getting around that. But you just see all the things that were attractive to the Steelers when Johnson coming out of Toledo. The route running, the separation, the overall smoothness in his game. And he's actually become he is really a go-to guy on third down. Had 3 third-down conversions against the Rams. No receiver on the Steelers team has more third-down receptions or first downs than Deontay Johnson. So it's kind of, you thought that'd be Juju, you thought that'd be, Vance, or maybe a back or someone, being the go-to guy on third down. But no, it's Deontay Johnson. He's really kind of been really, the scheme's been designed to get him the ball on a lot of third downs.
Well, yeah, too. You have him, so a lot of times kind of isolated out there against, and he's winning some matchups there. I mean, he's been getting open all year, right?
Yeah, when you're the X receiver, I mean, you're 3-by-1, you're isolated, you're going to get a lot of one-on-one chances.
Right, and you like to see him get kind of those quick slants, and you want to get that guy the ball out in the open field. Open space, because we saw him have a nice kind of stop on a dime, give him 9 cents change a moment there against the Rams. His cutting ability, especially when he keeps his footing, is out of this world. I mean, you go back to even, what was it, the VMI game last year? That guy can break some ankles in a hurry. I think, and we haven't seen a lot of this, right, so far about, and obviously opportunity is going to play a part in that. Maybe get some wide receiver screens out to him, get the ball out to him in a hurry, out to either side, and let him try to work in open space there.
Yeah, it's been, I think, as advertised, and he's probably playing more than this team expected to, but I think he's kind of rising to that challenge, so you got to appreciate that. Keith Butler talking to the media a lot about Cam Hayward. Hayward obviously played excellent this year. I think really coming on strong, even better, knowing, he's got to be the guy in Stephon Tuitt's absence. Anything from Butler that kind of caught your attention? Yeah,
other than, not really, other than, he was asked quite a bit about, Minka and all like that, and basically, let's see, where was the quote on Mika here? I'm trying to find out if something along the lines of, can you do more with Minka? Are you finding that there? Okay.
At the bottom, I think.
Yeah. Is Minka Fitzpatrick becoming the guy that offenses need to be aware of, and can you leverage that to do to your advantage by doing some more things with him? He says, I just like what he's doing right now. I don't want to mess him up. You know what I mean? He says, I like what he's doing. He's playing good ball for us. He comes to work every day. You kind of admire the way he works at his game. He likes to play the game. He loves the game, but he works at it too, and that's probably the reason he's reaping the benefits from it. I tell you, boy, he was impressive in that game against the Rams, and they, especially in kind of the dime packages there, they made a concerted effort to get him down, helping down, in the middle of the field and on kind of bracketing Cooper Kupp, if you will. One play inside the red zone on the third down, absolutely phenomenal. His presence around Kupp and in the middle of the field in some robber-like situations was recognized early and often, I think, by Goff, and I think that prevented Goff from maybe going to Kupp a few times in this game, maybe when he probably should have had opportunities in some tighter spaces there to do so. And when he did go other areas, especially kind of when the Steelers had that extra DBs on the field, the Steelers DBs did a great job of locking up.
They did. It was a true effort to lock down Kupp. You had Hilton playing outside leverage. You had Fitzpatrick playing inside leverage, taking away anything that would cross the middle of the field. So that's the game plan you need to shut down a guy that talented, especially on third down. Because again, Kupp was the biggest threat on third down. They took him away. They took him away the entire game. But, I thought just a great game overall. Opportunistic Fitzpatrick's been. But Joe Hayden, again, just playing lights out. I mean, his best game as a Steeler I think he's ever played. And it's just been an effort from everybody. There's been no super weak link. Edmonds hasn't played the best, but no one's been a liability out there.
Boy, they did a number on that Rams offense, did they not? I mean, yeah. What else stuck out to you kind of defensively there?
And I'm so glad they were able to play dime because since they've made the switch to having Sutton and Hilton being in dime package instead of Cam Kelly being in there for Mike Hilton, it's let them be able to play dime and play it extensively. They did it 36 times against the Rams. That's more than any other game this season by a considerable margin. So the ability to play dime, to put your best coverage guys on the field, to be able to bracket guys like Kupp. Instead of having linebackers on the field, I think that's been a big change. So it was a bit of a long overdue adjustment when I was talking about it a couple weeks ago, but I'm really, really happy that they've made the smart change to have Hilton and Sutton be in dime defense.
Boy, and they've handled the empty.
Yeah, a little better. Yeah, I had to look at the numbers, but better than how they started the year.
And how many plays did they have dime out there, did you say?
36. I think 32 if you discount the penalties, but 36 snaps.
All right, so how much are we going to see of that, Thursday night?
I mean, it's obviously going to be game, dependent. The Rams had a lot of late game drives where you're going to be in your dime defense, but I think now you're comfortable playing dime in obvious pass situations when it's 3rd and 6 and 3rd and 7 plus. You're going to be comfortable going in and having Hilton and Sutton in there. So that's, I think Matthew had the article this morning asking the question, why didn't Devin Bush play that often on Sunday? And the reason was because he played so much dime defense. Mark Barron is the communicator, has the green dot, so he's going to have to be out there in those dime packages. So that's going to lose and rob Bush of some opportunities, but it is getting your best coverage people on the field.
Anything else stuck out to you that Keith Butler had to say?
Not much from Butler, but I did see on the tape, and I mentioned it briefly, but I saw it more as I went through the All-22 yesterday, was Isaiah Buggs kind of popped for the first time in his NFL career. Had a nice run stuff and then beat the left guard cleanly and nearly came up with his first NFL sack a little bit later in the game. So I saw some hand use and I think him settling into things a little bit, getting some comfort. This isn't as wide-eyed as probably he was his first game a few weeks ago. So even he's kind of giving you something as a pass rusher to try to help replace what you lost in Stephon Tuitt.
And that is positive looking. Don't want to look too far ahead here, but if Javon Hargrave indeed does leave, maybe he's the kind of guy that can at least maybe give you some snaps in nickel situations there, right? And look, you go back to I remember breaking down his sacks and his TFLs at Alabama from his final year there, and we're starting to see a little bit of the things that he the hand usage and the ability to swim over and whatnot, kind of the things that he did at Alabama. So it's nice to see him get snaps and B start to show up, pop on tape when he is out there.
Yeah, it gives you a little bit of comfort and confidence, not only for this year, but going forward. And I will say Javon Hargrave just wrecked the Rams that game. The Rams offensive line.
I told you, he was popping.
Yeah. I mean, they were bad going into what the Rams offensive line was, but then they lost their center, and their right tackle goes down, and they're shuffling guys, and they're playing a bunch of new guys in foreign spots. And, I mean, they just got manhandled the second half of that game Sunday.
And look, it goes back to what we continue to say about pressure and 4 and 3 man pressures here. I mean, and it wasn't just him. You had Cameron Hayward running over people. You had Bud, Super Bud, sitting. And look, I know Whitworth is up there in age now, but he's still a technician. He's still one of the better tackles in the game. Bud sitting him down a few times. Obviously, T.J. Watt, he wore that. I'm drawing a blank at his name.
Havenstein?
Rob Havenstein, he wore him out on the other side there. That guy would try to protect the inside sometime, and then Watt would just speed rush, dip, and rip around him. The funny thing is, you see some of these dips on the TV angle of it. You don't actually get to see the rip part of it. Until you get on the all-22 side of it there. But Watt is just playing fantastic. Bud's absolutely playing. I mean, the whole front right now. And this is without Stephon Tuitt, right, who was. I mean, can you imagine? It would be nice from a snap count. Even Tyson Alualu is showing some things as a pass rusher and chasing the football down the field as well, too. So everything that I think that you could wish for right now, as far as the Steelers front goes defensively, you were getting outside of having Stephon Tuitt healthy there. So super positive. Now you kind of wonder how the snap load might play into this game Thursday night, especially if the Browns are able to put some sustaining drives together here. How quickly will this front maybe wear down if they're on the field for a long time on a short week, having to defend against a pretty damn good running game?
Mhm. Yeah, that's definitely a concern because your rotations are going to be tested on a short week against a Browns team that certainly wants and has been successful running the football. But I want to say with the defensive line, you're right. I mean, you talk about the pass rush ability of Cam Hayward and what Javon Hargrave's doing and Tyson Alulu having a much better season than last year. But where I think it starts with the defensive line is their effort and their intensity. They play so hard, snap to snap. No one's loafing. No one's taking a play off. They're chasing the ball hard, as you said. And, man, Tyson Alulu, he's going to punch a ball out this year. He's been trying for weeks now to try to chase down and punch it out, and I think he's finally going to get one. But when I think about the Steelers' defensive line, you think about all the superlatives of, the numbers and the gaudy pass rush wins, but I think about how hard the effort this D-line plays with. It's best in football.
Yeah, look, with that kind of pedigree, you better be playing well right now.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but again, with the D-line, it's infectious. Cam Hayward and Tuitt, whenever he was healthy, learned from Aaron Smith and Brett Kiesel and Javon Hargrave, who didn't play with great effort in college because he was the most dominant guy on the field. He didn't have to. He just, he just made plays in the backfield. He didn't have to chase the football. Hargrave learned from Hayward and Tuitt and John Mitchell when he was a defensive line coach. And now Carl Dunbar's doing similar things. So now a guy like Isaiah Bugg is learning how to chase the football. He's learning from Alulu. He's learning from Hayward. He's learning from Dunbar. So it's really just kind of been passed down from the last generation to this generation of defensive linemen who not only are great players but play with fanatical effort too.
Mace, go back to real quick recap and kind of what some people said yesterday. Rudolph talking about, sometimes you just got to take what the defense gives you. There were a lot more opportunities he felt to push the ball down the field in this game, against the Rams. Versus against the Colts, situation there. So it'd be interesting to see how what do you expect? Do you expect a lot more man from the Browns in this one? I don't want to get too far into preview here, but what are you expecting Mason, coming out of what he did well against the Rams game to be able to do against the Browns defense here?
Well, I hope he's able to push the ball down the field. I think you're going to get a good amount of man coverage. They got some high pedigree guys in the secondary, whether you're talking Denzel Ward, I believe a top 10 pick, and Greedy Williams, their first round pick this year, taken in the second round. Those guys are getting healthy and back into the fold. So I think you are going to see a good amount of man coverage. So now it's going to be dependent on your receivers to win their one-on-one battles and be able to push the ball downfield. So that's always the goal. And I think Mason's been I think the whole offense has been more aggressive after the bye week. It hasn't always been effective, and there's been ball security issues and Rudolph and accuracy issues and things like that. Defense is simply not letting them get beat deep. But I think you have seen a more aggressive mentality from Rudolph in this offense, and I expect and I hope that continues.
Was sticking other things that stuck out offensively against the Rams. Not the best game for David DeCastro, right?
Yeah, McDonald ate him alive.
Yeah, and trying to think, what did you think about Filer's play at left guard?
I mean, obviously Donald got to him a couple times because he's Aaron Donald, and that's what he does to DeCastro, so certainly that's what he's going to do to Filer. But just for a right tackle, we've been playing right tackle the entire year. That's been his mindset, just on the fly, get flipped inside the left guard to go against this front the Rams have, and to be strong with his communication, with his eyes, stunt pickup, blitz pickup. They tried to run coffee house stunt the one time, and finally was able to recognize it and pick it up. And just to be steady, consistent play. I think there are very few guys in football that can probably make that move on the fly and play as cleanly and as efficiently as Matt Filer did. So I think you have to give him a ton of credit for them. I mean, the level of comfort you have to have in your lineman to be able to make that switch like that, it's got to be sky high. And I think he answered the call.
With Chuks Okorafor, not a bad game overall, I didn't think, but he's going to have to learn how to, especially when he's tight on that side over there, of how to handle a smart veteran pass rusher that wants to speed him off the edge.
Yeah, I did charge him for 1 sack of the 3 given up. So overall, I was pretty happy with it. I thought there could be a major issue coming into this game with them trying to do this offensive line shuffling. I think overall it worked out. Obviously, you want to see a better push in the run game. I don't know if Okorafor really got that, but for his first start of the year, I wasn't too mad about it.
I mean, look, that was a good front that they played against.
Mm-hmm, definitely.
Aaron Donald wrecks havoc for sure, and I mean he's the best defensive one of, if not the best defensive player in the NFL right now, and it was obviously a shot in the arm for them to get Clay Matthews back in that game as well too, and I thought for the most part. You highlighted one instance where he did hit Juju over on the right side, talking about Mason Rudolph. Trying to think there may have been a Deontay Johnson one that he missed.
Well, the one that bugged me the most, the Juju one bugged me. That was a 3rd and 13. He throws at Samuelson to the boundary. It's an inaccurate pass. It's incomplete, but he misses Juju, and that should have been his first read. But the other one that bugged me was the throw that was complete to Vance McDonald that he fumbled on. Remember that play late in the fourth quarter, mid-fourth quarter? That was a Hank concept, and and I broke this down on Steelers Deep. You can check out the video. When you run Hank, that your first progression is that Hank route, that little 5-yard curl route over the ball. That's got to be your first read. And for some reason, Rudolph was reading the curl flat combination, which was not open, and he stayed on that way too long, and then made a hurry, kind of desperate last second throw to Vance over the middle. So I just worry about some of his process and his progressions, where he's not seeing things as cleanly and as quickly as he should be able to. And those are things that a young quarterback's got to deal with, and growing pains that's going to be associated with the position. But those are the little things that don't really get talked about too much, where you say, man, you got to speed things up, you got to be more decisive and know where to go with the football, that he's still got to work on.
Yeah, you can still see moments with him where it's not reactionary.
Yeah, because that Hank concept, that's an easy concept for an NFL quarterback to make. That is a simple, clear progression. You're reading the weak side hook linebacker, and you're basing your throw off of where he goes. And he's just not reading him correctly at all. And that's not where you want to be for a quarterback that is young but has now played a decent amount of football.
I thought he did some good things against some cover 3 situations with balls to Washington. I think Johnson on one of them there. He's not afraid. He's getting a little bit more comfortable to tight window it. Now the one to Vance McDonald that Troy Hill almost got was probably it was a bad decision on his part to let that one go there. So. It's just going to be a game-by-game thing with him, Alex. Just can he progress in these certain areas? Start fine-tuning this thing a little bit more here. And, just the biggest thing, and Randy pointed this out, I think, just don't turn over the damn football right now.
Right. Yeah.
You are going to be, because of this defense, you're going to be in a lot of games as long as you don't give up the easy points here, and provide opposing offenses with the short fields there. And I think that's, look, he's given up the ball in a couple sacks there. They had the bad snap the other night. He's, a couple of the interceptions obviously weren't his fault, but a couple were, and those were bad. The one against the 49ers, the one against the Dolphins, bad decisions on his part. He got away with one against the Rams there the other night there. But, and look, I mean, it goes with any game, with any NFL team, you don't want to turn the football over. But when you have such a fragile offense as this right now, and scoring opportunities probably going to be limited enough as it is. Giving them up on the back end just can't happen. So just be a little bit more smarter with the football, and to try to do a better job at getting through those progressions quicker, and making the right decisions on those progressions as well too is even more important.
Exactly. I think that's a critical point you said at the end. And again, I was encouraged by his play and his mental toughness he showed. I thought the most impressive play that he made was a third down drop by Jalen Samuels.
Right, that got Donald right on his face. Yeah, why did they let him run free on Donald? I don't know if you saw the Rams have a kind of a mic'd up wired video that they put out since the game, and even Donald was like they didn't block me,
Mm-hmm.
But he did. Look, I mean, to stand in there with that guy coming at you and deliver a catchable ball that would have been a first down,
mm-hmm.
So look, I think he's very, very mentally strong. Kind of plays with that. I like his moxie, and I've liked that right from the get go with him dating back. To his college days there. I don't think and we saw earlier this, a couple games ago against the Dolphins and all, man, you're getting booed at home like that, and you're a young quarterback who hasn't had a great start to the game, and you're coming off of, first game back after concussion. You could easily see a guy fall apart in that situation there.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't,
Yeah, no, I think the mental toughness, physical and mental toughness, are some of his best traits he's shown. So we'll see where he goes moving forward, and we'll continue to evaluate him. All right, Dave, anything else you want to talk about from the All-22, or do you want to move on?
I think other than the defense is a little bit worrisome still against the run there, and and I guess we're going to get into that stage now. We're a little bit worrisome going in. Look, this defense been great against the pass. I would expect. I don't know which one. I guess that's a good time to segue here. Which outside of obviously being dedicated to the run, stopping the run first here, who are you trying to take away from this Browns offense the most?
Well, do you want to talk to our friend Scott Petrak first?
Let's do that. That's a good setup.
Yeah, so we'll talk to Scott Petrak. Again, he covers the Browns for the Chronicle Telegram and the Medina Gazette. You can find his work at brownzones.com. A little bit of an audio fading in and out. I think just he was in a bad spot, but it's not terrible. So I just want to let you know off the top that it's not maybe the best audio in the world, but some definitely great information. So we'll talk to Scott Petrak and then come back.
Okay, welcome back to the Terrible Podcast. It is Wednesday, one day ahead of the Pittsburgh Steelers playing the Cleveland Browns in Cleveland Thursday night, a big AFC North matchup. And back on the show again, helping us preview the first of two meetings. We'll probably be having them on again just here in a couple of weeks because these two teams will meet again a couple of weeks apart here. And I am pleased, and we are pleased to have back on the show Scott Petrak. Scott is the Browns beat writer for the Chronicle Telegram and the Medina Gazette. You can find all of his work at brownzone.com, and he hosts a podcast over there as well, too. So everybody should remember Scotty. We got a lot of great feedback the couple of times he's been on the show already. So, Scott, welcome back to the Terrible Podcast. Happy Wednesday morning.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Scott, look, the flashback to the last time I think we talked to you was right before the start of the regular season, previewing the Browns, and all the hype about the Browns during the offseason. A lot of people had this team, probably going to make the playoffs this year, and then several others thought that this was a team that maybe even could compete, for a Super Bowl here. And now here we are in Week 11. The Browns are 3-6. Kind of give us an overview, a quick 30,000-foot overview about how the Browns season has gone to date.
Yeah, obviously a huge disappointment to this point. Inside the locker room, the players are still holding out hope that they'll be able to salvage the season and go on a run here. But the schedule was really difficult at the beginning of the season, and the Browns just didn't handle it well. And I think you can point to the coach, Freddie Kitchens, and the quarterback, Baker Mayfield. I'm guessing when we talked before the season, I said those are my two biggest question marks. And Freddie would have to prove that he belonged as an NFL coach, and Baker would have to improve from year one to year two. And Freddie's had plenty of missteps, and Baker regressed from year one to year two. Now he's playing better the last couple of weeks. After 7 games with at least 1 interception, he's gone 2 straight weeks without throwing one. He looks a little more comfortable, but he hasn't been the same player. And one of the factors is they've had a hard time figuring out how to incorporate Odell Beckham Jr. And it seemed like he would be a huge boost to this offense. But so far, the connection just hasn't been there. The coaching staff has struggled to take full advantage of Odell. And then if you go on the defensive side of the ball, this front four has the potential to dominate, and it really hasn't. And they haven't done a good job stopping the run. So it's been a bunch of different things, but all of a sudden the Browns were 2-6. And since divisional realignment, in 2002, no team 2-6 has gone to the playoffs. So, it's been tough times for this team.
With look, I mean, this is a big game for both these. The Steelers are kind of still and will be in a fragile state for the rest of this season with Mason Rudolph and the way that offense is performing, and the defense has played well, very well, especially since the addition of Minkah Fitzpatrick. But if the Browns lose this game Thursday night, that has to be it for them for this year, right? And if so, what does the future hold for Freddie Kitchens? The immediate future hold for Freddie Kitchens here?
I would think so. I mean, you could probably paint some scenario where 9-7 gets into the playoffs, but to me, you have to go 10-6, and there's also no reason to think you would lose again at home They're right now they're 1-3 at home. That win Sunday against Buffalo was their first win. There's no reason to think you're 1-4 at home and all of a sudden you're going to win your final 6 games, right? Which includes at Pittsburgh, at Arizona, home to Baltimore. So yeah, it's a huge game for the Browns. And I'm trying not to get ahead of myself. After that win in Buffalo, some people started to think, well, maybe the Browns can go on a run. I need to see them beat the Steelers on Thursday night. If they get to 4-6, and then you have that mini bye coming off the Thursday night game, I think then you can reassess and say, okay, the schedule does get easier. There's 2 games against the Bengals. There's one against Miami. Can this team really make a run? And they do have the Kareem Hunt just came back, and I think that can change this offense and can change this team moving forward. But they need to beat Pittsburgh, and that's obviously not going to be easy. It's anything but a given. So yeah, this is a huge game. And as far as Freddie's future, I hate to jump the gun, and I hate to make premature judgments. But with all the talent that General Manager John Dorsey assembled on this roster, there's got to be a number of wins that Freddie has to get to. At least that's my thought. And I think if he gets to 8-8, he's fine because this team needs continuity. It needs stability. That would mean they played much better in the second half, right? Go 2-6 and flip it and go 6-2. But if this team goes 6-10, and you see a Baker regression, and you see the failure to incorporate Odell Beckham Jr., then I think firing Freddie would be on the table, and that would be a tough thing for this franchise because obviously it's struggled to find any kind of successful coach. I mean, since the Haslam's took over, Hugh Jackson was the longest tenured coach at 2.5 years.
When you look at this short week here, and obviously both teams are having to deal with it, and the Browns offense looked, especially running the football, we saw Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb both on the field quite a bit. I mean, they really got that running game going there. But on a short week now, it's probably so hard to put stuff in at this point. Are we likely to see a lot of the same things that we saw against the Buffalo Bills on both sides of the ball this week? Against the Steelers. Now, obviously, being at home, you probably get that extra, maybe kind of half day being today, I guess, to maybe put some extra things in while the Steelers are having to bus on over and all. But are you kind of expecting on this short week to things to be kind of status quo, sort of scheme wise on both sides of the football?
I would think so. The only 2 areas where I could see a change is maybe you expand the package of Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. I know they did it a good number of snaps the other day, but I could see trying to expand that a little more, whether that's both of them in the backfield together, which it did some. Maybe have Nick Chubb as a lead blocker a little bit, even though Kareem had that role against the Bills, and we know that Nick Chubb has been running outstanding. He's 3rd in the league in rushing. And the other area would be the goal line. The Browns have struggled in the red zone all year, and they lost to Denver the week before Buffalo because they were 1 for 5 in the red zone scoring touchdowns. The problem against the Bills was the short yardage red zone. They were 7 snaps from the 1 on one drive and 1 from the 2, and then there was another possession that got to the 1, and they settled for 1 field goal. So I think that's an area where this week the coaches go back in. They designed some new stuff, and maybe it's just as easy as getting Kareem Hunt on the field because he was not on there a lot for those goal line situations. They were more of a jumbo line package. So those are the 2 areas I think you could tweak. Everything else, I think you're right. I think it's too short a week. I think the Browns have had too many issues getting in and out of the huddle, getting lined up correctly, that you can't be overhauling anything on such a short week.
You talked about how Baker's regressed this year, and I think the numbers bear that out, but he has played better the last 3 weeks, completing nearly 2/3 of his passes, 4 touchdowns to only 1 interception. What's clicking? What's working? Is it just better chemistry with the receivers, just better execution? Why has Baker been playing better the last couple weeks?
Yeah, part of it, not all of it, but it just popped into my head first, so I'm going to say it first. Part of it's luck. He had a pick against Denver that got dropped, at least one. He had one against Buffalo that should have been intercepted. So early in the season, there were a lot of tip balls that turned into interceptions and weren't necessarily his fault. and now he's gotten a couple of breaks, and I think that's just how the season goes. But more important than that is I think there's some more comfort level with the offensive line. Early in the season, Baker was in a hurry to bail. I don't think he trusted his tackles. Not that the tackles have played much better, but I think Baker has done a better job staying in the pocket and, escaping through the pocket as opposed to being in a hurry to take off. And I think that's been important. There has been improved chemistry with Odell. It's not where it needs to be, but you see some growth. You see some easier completions. For a good chunk of the season, they were struggling to complete hooks and outs. They just weren't throwing those. There was a lot of hitches. There's a couple of slants, and some deep outs. Now they're running some easy completions to Odell, which makes sense, right? If the cornerback's going to play with 12 yards off the line of scrimmage, then run an 8-yard curl, run an 8-yard out, and take advantage of that. So they've been doing a better job with that. And I think Baker's just throwing more accurately. That's one of his calling cards at the beginning of the season. He was missing. Even some of those tipped interceptions were behind or slightly low. And he hasn't been perfect, and his completion percentage is still at the bottom of the league. But the last couple of weeks, you've seen him throw it better, and that's where it all starts, right? If you can put the ball where you want, you had a much better chance of being successful.
The one weird thing, Baker, the last half of last year, he was barely sacked. I think sacked like 5 times the second half of last year, and now he's already been sacked 25 times this year. The faces, to me, and maybe I'm wrong on this, haven't changed that much on the offensive line. Treader at center, Hubbard at right tackle, Robinson at left tackle. What is going on with the offensive line play? Are these sacks on Baker? Is it on the O-line? I'm sure there's a combination, but how would you evaluate the guys up front?
Yeah, it is a combination, but there's a lot of fans in Cleveland that really jump all over the offensive line. And I'm not saying it's a perfect offensive line, and there are plenty of examples, even in that Buffalo game, where Greg Robinson at left tackle got beat, by Jerry Hughes. Chris Hubbard's going to have his hands full Thursday night with TJ Watt, obviously. But I don't think the line has been as bad as people think. I believe Baker had a good part to do with the increase in sacks. I mentioned bailing. Well, a lot of times he'd bail right into the pass rush. He would also hang on to the ball too long on occasion. I don't think the coaching staff always helped with route concepts. It felt like early in the year there were a lot of deep concepts, and Baker didn't have a place to dump the ball off to or refused to dump it off, and that led to sacks. So, the line's not perfect. On 1-on-1 battles, they struggle, and they struggled in a big Monday night. They got killed by the Niners on Monday night, and the line couldn't handle Nick Bosa and those guys for the Niners. But having said that, I don't think that's the biggest problem, and I think Baker plays into that. But they did make a change at right guard. They traded Kevin Zeitler, who's a borderline Pro Bowler. They traded him for Olivier Vernon, and there was a downgrade there. They started the season with Eric Kush, and then they made the change to Wyatt Teller 2 games ago. Greg Robinson was benched at the bye week, and it was a wake-up call because the coaches are trying to get his attention because he doesn't always focus, he doesn't always prepare. He's back in there. So they need an upgrade at the tackle spots. And I love Chris Hubbard, but I don't think he's been playing great at right tackle. So in the offseason, that'll be a priority. It's getting better at left and right tackle. But the Browns can still win with this offensive line as long as Baker helps and the coaching staff helps.
Did you see the combination of Chubb and Kareem Hunt coming early? Was this out of necessity? Maybe because, look, Ricky Seals-Jones has been kind of banged up, and not, obviously their other tight end has been sidelined as well too. But did you see this coming? I mean, look, they had them on the field together. I think something around the line of 40% of the snaps, and they really worked good together. In fact, I think the Browns had 4 explosive plays at 20 yards or more against the Bills, and Chubb was responsible for 3 of those on the ground. If I'm not mistaken, I think Kareem Hunt was on the field for all 3 of those as well too. So was this something kind of born out of necessity, or was this kind of the intentions once Hunt was back on the 53 again?
I think it all comes down to Hunt being back. He's such a talent, and I think we forget that sometimes because he's away from the game for a while. And I didn't know exactly how he would look. It'd been almost a year since he'd played a game. It was November 19th, and then he comes back and plays November 10th. So I wasn't sure what to expect. I did not expect them to use Kareem as much as a lead blocker, but he was willing to take on that role. He did a good job at it. The Browns don't have a fullback. So I think they were just looking for any way to get another playmaker on the field. And I think they found, a gold mine here. Because, I've talked about Odell a lot because he's such a big personality. He just kind of hovers over the whole team. But when you're trying to get the ball to him, you need a lot to be right. The line needs to hold up. You can't, if they're double teaming him, it's hard to get him the ball. It's different with your running backs. You turn around and handle the ball. You can run swing passes. You can run screens. It's a lot easier to get those guys involved, and it takes pressure off the quarterback. And I think that's what this coaching staff discovered in that Bills game is, hey, we can get the ball to Chubb and Hunt, who are arguably their two of their best three players on offense, whatever that ratio is. I mean, they're probably both top 10 backs in this league. And I was arguing with somebody the other day, maybe they're top 5 backs. If you have those guys wind up under the ball, and I think the coaching staff appreciated that. They were able to see Kareem a little in the offseason because he was here all offseason. He practiced a little bit in training camp before he had sports hernia surgery, and then the NFL let him come back to practice for 2 weeks before the suspension was over. So I think they saw, hey, this guy's extremely talented. We can use him in a number of ways, including receiver, and it just makes sense to get him and Chubb on the field as much as possible.
Before we move over to the defense, looking at kind of the health of the team here, it doesn't sound like Eric Murray, I guess, is going to be suited up this week, and Olivier Vernon, the defensive end as well, too. And I'm guessing that the tight end, Ricky Seals-Jones, is going to be kind of a game-time decision. Which way do you think they're leaning with the tight end there? And are indeed, I think, Murray and Vernon going to be out this week?
Yeah, Murray's for sure out. He had knee surgery November 1st, and he's not ready to come back. Vernon, I think they're holding out hope, but it doesn't look great for him, so I don't expect him to play. I saw him walking around the locker room. He doesn't look like something crazy serious. The short week probably hurts him there. And then Seals-Jones, like you said, he'll be a game day. I think they might have him up and playing because he was able to do some at practice yesterday. They like him as their tight end when they go third down package because he's more of a receiver than a blocker. So I would say he plays, but they're going to have to see how the knee feels on Thursday.
Obviously, Myles Garrett's going to be somebody to be reckoned with for the Steelers offense. I thought last year in the one-on-one matchups between Garrett and Villanueva, I thought Villanueva held his own okay there. I think Larry Ogunjobi was the one that really caused a lot of havoc for the Steelers in a couple of the games there. But without having Olivier Vernon on the other side there, I'm sure the Steelers will dedicate maybe a little bit more attention to Myles Garrett and his side over there. How is this pass rush right now? I think are they able to get the consistent pressure with 4-man rushes, or are they having to manufacture that a little bit with blitzes and whatnot?
Yeah, it's interesting. You're right. Don't miss Olivier Vernon, who didn't do a whole lot early, but then had come on before the knee injury. He had sacks in 3 straight games. I think it was his best 3 games. But they've done a pretty good job creating consistent pass rush. I mean, they have 26 sacks. Baker's been sacked 25 times, so they're kind of evening out there. Garrett, the numbers are great, right? He's got 10 sacks. He's tied for 3rd in the league. He had a couple of pressures last week against the Bills, but he's gone 2 straight games without a sack. And they need him to be productive, and they need him to overcome the double teams. And I think that's something he struggles with from time to time. He just hasn't been as dominant as the numbers would indicate and as dominant as you'd expect from a number 1 overall pick, and the Browns need him to be. He just hasn't had one of those games where he takes over. He's been close a couple times. Monday night against the Jets in week 2, he played pretty close. In that opener last year against the Steelers, he had a big game. But it just feels like it's not quite there. You're always thinking, man, where's Myles, or, we need one more play from Myles, that kind of thing. So maybe in prime time, maybe coming off 2 down games, he'll be able to get something going. They've been moving him. They've been flipping sides with him more than in the past, trying to take advantage of, even put him on the right side, or actually the left side of the defense, even moving him inside every once in a while. They have less flexibility when it's Chad Thomas instead of Vernon doing that. And then, Aaron Ogunjobi's been good in the middle. Sheldon Richardson's been active. And that's kind of the mystery about this defense. Like, I would say all four guys across the front have played well this season. But as a unit, they just haven't dominated like you thought they would. There hasn't been that takeover a game. They're bad against the run. And it's one of those mysteries where, well, it feels like all the guys are playing well, but it just hasn't had the overall impact that you'd expect.
How's that secondary played?
Not bad. They missed the starting corners. Denzel Ward and Greedy Williams were out for 4 weeks with hamstrings. They pulled them within like 5 minutes of each other during a practice. Missed 4 games. They're pretty good. Greedy gave up a couple of throws to New England early and then rebounded. Denzel gave up a touchdown against Denver and had a holding call, but then bounced back. I thought he played well against Buffalo with some pass breakups. Morgan Burnett is just Morgan Burnett. You guys saw him last year. The Browns have kind of been cutting down on his snaps, and then Jermaine Whitehead has the Twitter blow up after the Broncos game. It gets cut, so now Burnett's playing every snap. And they miss Eric Murray in that third safety role. And then I like Demarius Randall. He's missed time with concussion. He missed time with the hamstring. He's back. So they're pretty good. I think against tight ends, they struggle if they ask, Burnett to run with the tight end. He can't do that. But overall, the secondary is pretty good. They're 7th against the pass. The problem is the run defense. They haven't been able to stop the run consistently at all.
I just had one more big picture question for you, Scott, and I'm sure this will be easier to answer once the season ends. But obviously there's a lot of, fire Freddie Kitchens sentiment from the fan base right now. What about the sentiment to the rest of the team? John Dorsey, Baker Mayfield. Does the fan base still believe in the direction the franchise is heading with those two guys? Or are there, the typical Twitter, internet stuff of, okay, maybe we made some mistakes there?
I think there's still trust overall in trust and faith in Dorsey and Baker. Mm-hmm. Dorsey brought in a bunch of this talent, and I think a consensus would be the talent is there. The coaching staff isn't getting the most out of the talent. Not that can change, and not that there aren't examples of bad moves and bad trades by Dorsey, but I think overall people believe that the talent is way better than it's been for this organization, at least in more than a decade, maybe since they've been back in '99. And as far as Baker, there's a lot of people still love Baker, but there have been bumps in the road. And, he's had some issues with the media. Yesterday we talked to him and he said, hey, the fans need to be quiet when we have the ball. I wrote that he lectured the fans and also pushed back on Twitter, a little bit of pushback on Twitter for using the word lecture in the headline. But some people agreed with me. And, he said, that's just basic football. Something along those lines. Where to me, it wasn't just, hey, can you guys please be quiet? It was, to me, more of a lecture than just asking the fans to be quiet. So he's got a couple of those. His personality is going to rub people the wrong way. And when he's winning, when he's on your team, you love him. When he's losing, when he's not on your team, then there's some pushback. And I think there's been some of that. But I don't think anybody's ready to give up on Baker. Even though I use the word regress earlier in the conversation, and I believe it's true, it never got to the point where you're like, at least for me, oh my gosh, he's not the guy. It's just been he hasn't been as good as he was as a rookie. And there were some red flags, but no big alarms going on. So I think there is still faith in those guys. If somebody's going to get blamed for the losing, I think most of that falls on Freddie Kitchens.
A little bit of bad connection I think we have with you, Scott. So with that, we'll start winding you up here. Is this game going to come down Thursday night to which team can run the ball better? And, after answering that, throw us out a prediction, if you will, for the Thursday night game. Can the Browns, get back in this thing and beat the Steelers at home?
Yeah, I think there's a few factors. Running the ball is certainly it. Can the Browns stop James Conner? Can Chubb and Hunt dominate the game? Turnovers will be huge. The Browns struggled with that early in the year offensively. They've not been able to force a bunch of takeaways on defense. We obviously know what the Steelers have done. So the Browns need to hang close there. I'm not saying they need to win the battle, but if they lose by one turnover, I think they have a chance to win. And I can make it a lead and make Mason Rudolph try to beat them come from behind. They haven't had to do that much. I think the Steelers are 5-0 when they're going to the fourth quarter leading, and 0-4 when they're trailing. So I think that's big. Then you unleash Myles Garrett and the fellas. So I just feel like the Browns are due to win 2 in a row for the first time all year, and maybe the Steelers aren't good enough to be a 5-game win streak kind of team. So I'm going Browns 20, Steelers 16.
All right, fair enough, Scott. And we'll obviously be checking back in with you in a couple more weeks here. But Scott, as usual, and folks, you can follow Scott on Twitter at I just pulled down your Twitter page right now. Give me your Twitter address, Scott.
Yeah, it's just at Scott Petrak, ScottPetrek.
And you can you catch up with all Scott's stuff on the internet at brownzone.com, and make sure you tweet out at him and thank him for being on the podcast again today. Scott, we appreciate your time, and like we said, we look forward to having you on in a couple more weeks as well too. So with that, thanks for being on a terrible podcast with us today.
Thanks, Scott.
Thanks, guys.
And again, that was Scott Petrak. You can follow him at brownzone.com. Follow him on Twitter at Scott Petrak. Let him know you heard him on the Terrible Podcast. Always appreciate his time. Some really good information, Dave.
Absolutely, always happy to have him on, and like we said, we'll turn around and have him back on the show here in just a couple weeks. And what are we going to be talking about at that time? Are the Browns out of it? Are the Browns in it? Going to be an interesting conversation to be had with him. And as always, make sure you reach out to Scott Petrak on the Twitter machine and thank him for his time, so they know that they're being heard and they're appreciated, and that helps in keeping the continuous flow of getting these beat writers on the show.
Absolutely. A couple of big AFC North games in a row for the Steelers coming up. Before we talk about the Browns and delve into kind of previewing this thing, let's talk about our buddy Dave, the Popcorn Man, over at Goodies. You can get his stuff at goodieslv.com. Dave, tell us about Dave.
Yeah, I talked about Dave and Goodies Popcorn couple of shows ago there. Told him I'd do him a little bit of favor, and we'll see if we could pick him up maybe as a part-time advertiser on the podcast. Boy, the response that we got off of that Dave got off that was absolutely fantastic. I think he had something like 40 or 50 orders off of that. So thank you very much to those that ordered. Hopefully you're enjoying your popcorn. Alex, I am a creature. This might surprise you, or maybe not. I am a creature of habit. I have OCD as well too. So when I find something that I like, I tend to overdo it. This is the case with Goodies Popcorn as well too. I have a $25 a week popcorn habit that I've developed thanks to Dave and his great company at Goodies Popcorn there. And my favorite flavors, I think I sent these three to you as well too, Alex. The caramel, the spicy buffalo, and the Fruit Loops. Who would have thought that you could have Fruit Loops flavored popcorn and it tastes fantastic? Well, Dave's figured that out, and he's got a lot of other flavors to go along with it. And I didn't know this until I looked at his website, goodieslv.com. Gluten-free, non-GMO seeds, 100% coconut oil, non-trans fat cheese. I don't know what all that means, but I guess that means it's good for me, so I can eat $25 worth of it a week there. Well, the response was so good the last time that we talked about Dave and goodieslv.com that Dave has signed on to be an advertiser of a Terrible Podcast for the next four Wednesdays here. This, of course, be the first of them here. So, look, their popcorn is fantastic. He's a small business here in Las Vegas. I came across him originally at one of these kind of outdoor marketplaces, if you will, out there in Summerlin, which is like, I guess, northwest of, a little bit northwest of the main city of Las Vegas here. Real good guy. If you like supporting small business, if you love popcorn and flavored popcorns, man, go look at the menu of the different kind of flavors. I haven't even tried a lot of these flavors because I'm so stuck on the ones that I like. But he's got the kettle corn. He's got, as I said, extra butter, the cheese, the spicy buffalo, jalapeno cheddar. Somebody wrote me an email or a tweet that they said they loved the jalapeno cheddar. I haven't tried that one yet. Salt and vinegar. Do you like salt and vinegar, Alex?
No, I'm not a big salt and vinegar fan, but I will say real quick with that spicy buffalo, that thing has a serious kick.
It
Not
does.
expect that from popcorn, but I took a couple bites and went, "Oh my goodness!" If you like spice, that's the one I would recommend.
Yeah, I always have a tall glass of iced tea,
Mm.
cold iced tea when I get that going. Dill pickle, are you a dill pickle fan? I'm not. I haven't tried the dill pickle one, but he's got that flavor: loaded baked potato, pizza, chili limes. I've never heard of some of these flavors before. Fruit Loops obviously is one of my favorite. The caramels out of this world. He's got a sour nerds. Whoever thought of that? And he also has, I think, a goodie mix of cheese and caramel. Anyway, get to goodieslv.com. Use promo code Steelers when you do. Free shipping for him. He's trying to get his website based part of the business up and running. Do that. I think he's got some. I know he's got some Las Vegas Golden Knights tins ready for the holidays here. He told me that he's got some Steelers ones on the way as well too. I don't see them on his website yet, so maybe you want to email him or something and see if he's got those available for sale. Look, those would make great holiday gifts here coming up as well too. So proud to have Dave at Goodies Popcorn on as an advertiser for the Terrible Podcast. Make sure you order from goodieslv.com and use promo code Steelers. And when you get the popcorn, shoot me an email, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com, and let me know what you think of it.
Yeah, I appreciate Dave's support and the product he provides. All right, Dave, let's jump into the Browns preview here. And I think you asked me, or what did you ask me before we threw it to Scott? Who are the Browns playmakers I want to take out?
Outside of stopping the run here. Look, I mean, I think we both agree, and after looking at the film, we obviously just talked to Scott a little bit of how they used two backs in the backfield. Really had a lot of good success running both, all zone and really all power concepts. They had the whole mix of it there. But with that being the obvious there of first and foremost stopping the run. They got some talented guys over there in Odell Beckham Jr. and obviously Jarvis Landry. What's your biggest concern that you're trying to take away?
Yeah, I don't think it's anything mystical when you have the top talent and big names that they do, whether you're talking the backfield, but also the receivers with Odell Beckham Jr. and Jarvis Landry. It's trying to slow down those guys, and Mayfield's not afraid to throw jump balls and throw vertical and off of play action and then red zone goal line fades. So you got to be prepared for them to chuck it deep and let their guys make a play really on any particular down or distance. So it's just trying to win those combative catch situations against two really strong receivers in Odell Beckham Jr. and Jarvis Landry. Yeah,
those guys can run loose too. I mean, you if you're knowing this Steelers front and knowing. Look, their offensive line is a good run-blocking offensive line, not so much in the pass protection department. Baker's been sacked, 23, 24 times already. We saw how ferocious and how good the 49ers front played against them, the Browns a couple weeks ago, especially when they jumped on the Browns right away there. If I'm Baker Mayfield and if I'm Freddie Kitchens, I want to get that running game going early, and also in passing situations early. I want the ball out of Baker Mayfield's hands quickly. So, probably a lot of quick slants if you can get one of those two wide receivers loose in here. Quick wide receiver screens. I don't want Baker Mayfield back there holding on to the football too terribly long if I can help it.
Yeah, that's the goal. I think obviously the weakness for this offensive line has been their pass rush or their pass protection, and Mayfield being sacked 25 times already this season, and I think you can get after him. So again, just as the way we've talked about with the Rams game, the Colts game, the Dolphins game, I mean this pass rush should be able to win early and win often.
What do you think about Mother Hubbard versus T.J. Watt in this one?
Yeah, that's not going to be a family reunion. I think T.J. Watt's going to come in as a rude awakening to Chris Hubbard this week because I've watched some of the tape. Both tackles, I think, have struggled pretty mightily. I've seen Robinson and Hubbard on the ground a ton this year.
Absolutely, I have as well too. And you just you shut the run down early here, which will be a chore. But if you can get and look, here's the thing that was a bit surprising when you go back through the Buffalo tape with them. Baker wasn't bad on third downs.
No.
No, he converted some of the shorter ones were the ones that they kind of struggled with, I think, there. But I think I remember them converting quite a few of the third and long situations there, which is shows some progress, at least to me, when it comes to Baker Mayfield and that offense. Do they want to try that same kind of be in the third and long situations, however, against the Steelers front? Absolutely not. But the other thing that was obvious when you go through the tape with them is them getting Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb on the field at the same time. And I think the most successful runs that they had, they had 4 explosive plays, as I had said when talking to Scott there. 3 of them were runs by Nick Chubb of 30 yards or more. Hunt was on the field with them at the same time on those plays. That outside zone, man, the Steelers have struggled against that in recent years. So that's going to, I think, be chief concern. Number one is the Browns trying to stretch out this Steelers front and trying to get one of those offensive linemen that can kind of, cut that off and provide that gap, that 5-step running back, pick a hole and go kind of situation there. That's what worries me the most. But that Hunt, he can lead block now. I expect them to mix it up a little bit more maybe this time, with maybe letting Hunt have some of those runs this time. But we're going to see that. Those two were on the field together, I think, 43% of the time in this game against the Bills.
Wow, yeah, a lot of pony stuff from them. They're getting involved in the pass game too. Hunt's been involved in the screen game, some of these angle screens that they've been running. But yeah, I think it goes back to the run game of you got to be able to read outside zone right away. If your feet are in concrete against zone perimeter schemes, you're going to be screwed. Basically, they're going to reach you. They're going to cut off the backside on the play, and you got to have the athleticism to get to the perimeter. Absolutely. And then the other thing the Browns do a little bit of is they wham block, where they try to get a tight end or tight end line in the backfield to kind of interior block on a defensive tackle, a nose tackle, so they try to be able to vary up their schemes a little bit too. So Javon Hargrave's got to have his head on a swivel in this game. So yeah, the Browns are varied, and they do a lot of play action, and they do it at a heavier personnel. But the big thing is, of course, stopping the run, which has been the Browns' strength. And if the Steelers have a weakness defensively, it has been their run D.
Because we're expecting more run heavy, more kind of heavier sets, I suppose. You going to get Vince Williams on the field a little bit more this week?
I mean, that would be my goal, but they didn't play him a lot last week, and they knew they had to shut down the Rams' run game, and the Rams still had some success on the ground. So it might. I mean, Barron's going to be on the field a lot because he's going to be your central communicator. So I'm still expecting a lot of Vince will come in on 1st and 10. But it's still probably going to be mostly Barrett and Devin Bush.
Yeah, and I would think the way the personnel and the way the health of that, we'll have to see what happens with Ricky Seals-Jones as far as game time decision goes with him. Their tight ends really don't scare you that too terribly much. We've seen them use Ricky Seals-Jones on kind of like some rub concepts, especially down in the red zone. That's where he kind of probably worries you the most. However, he has had a couple of explosive plays, I think. One down the, who was that that he had? What was it, against Baltimore earlier in the season? He had one down the sideline that they couldn't bring him down. They missed some tackles after the fact when it comes to them, comes to Ricky Seals-Jones there. So interesting to see his status by game time there. You're right. They will try to get, and look, they'll put both those, they'll run some pistol, right?
Yep. They want to get it more, and they'll do pistol with Hunt sidecar and Chubb behind Mayfield. So they would look a downhill run style with a lot of variety in that run game.
And they'll motion Hunt out of that, streaking out to the side and kind of hit him on the run, and try to get him out in open space. Look, this Steelers defense will get tired in a hurry if they're not able to stop the run, and this game stays close into the fourth quarter, and you're continually having to try to bring down a good after contact guy in Nick Chubb.
I think that's the most critical point to make is the rotations, and can guys play to the finish line, because you're on a short week. You got injuries at the outside linebacker. The defensive line depth has been tested. Obviously the starters are strong, but can you play as strong in the first quarter that you will in the fourth quarter when you're tired, when they've run the ball, when it's been a AFC North kind of game? So can you have a good enough rotation, and can guys be able to strain to the finish line? I think that's honestly the biggest key in this game.
Once again, get them in third and long situations, make them bring in the at least 11 personnel, maybe an extra wide receiver in those situations, then get your dime on the field and let the Steelers defense go to work in those situations.
Yep, that's always the goal every single week. Defensively, Dave, obviously Myles Garrett, I think that front in general is really strong. I thought Scott made a good point where that front, even the linebackers, you have a lot of good names. You have Larry Ogunjobi, who's super underrated, Myles Garrett, Olivier Vernon, though he's unlikely to play this week. Joe Schobert, a linebacker, I think is also one of the more underrated off-ball players in football, but the run defense just has not been good, and I think that's where, if there's a week for the Steelers rushing attack to get in gear, it's got to be this week. You get James Conner back, you get Ramon Foster back. If they can't run the ball this week, man, they got big problems.
Yeah, you nailed it. You got to get a semblance of a running game going here this week. It takes a lot of pressure off. And look, you get those linebackers thinking run a lot too. It's gonna open up that passing game a little bit more. I mean, you play action obviously off of that regardless. But I guess the scariest thing here is a game with James Conner without Roosevelt Nix. Not that I thought Roosevelt Nix has played all that well when he has been out there this year, but his mere presence alone attracts a lot of flies. Mm-hmm. And look, I mean, they had a pin and pull play to Tony Brooks-James in this last game that if McDonald blocks that down better off and we're not just talking about offensive line, we're talking about the tight ends as well too. Got to get off the ball quick against some of these guys here and make sure on some of these design runs around the end or whatnot, you get them blocked up properly even on the tight ends on some of these pin and pulls. If you don't have that pin in place and you don't cut off that defensive end, they're going to wreak havoc and blow that thing up right from the get-go here. I mean, it's Myles Garrett as a pass rusher with them, and then obviously everything else. The gap in between sacks and pressures between the rest of those guys are obvious. Now, you go back to the Myles Garrett versus Alejandro Villanueva here. I thought for the most part in both was it only one meeting last year? Did Myles Garrett miss his second meeting or no? Do you remember?
I thought he played, but I could be remembering that wrong, so I'd have to go back and look.
I just thought overall on a snap-by-snap basis when it was Garrett rushing against Villanueva, I thought Villanueva held his own in there.
Yeah, but Garrett always seems to make that one or two plays against Villia game, which I know happens because it's
the fumble late last year.
Yeah.
Week one where Villanueva missed a block and he caused a game-changing really a game-altering play by forcing a fumble on James Conner on that one there. So yeah, I mean, look, I'm not gonna say that Villanueva is going to win every matchup. I just think, and I'm trying to go back to the narrative last year. People say, "Oh, Villanueva guy." You know who Villanueva I thought had the most problems with at times, and when Garrett dropped a few times was at Ogunjobi. I mean, he's a talented, very underrated defensive tackle for them.
Yeah, one of the best interior run stuffers in football. But again, it's surprising to say that, and then the next sentence say this is a bottom 5 run defense statistically. So you got to be able to run the football. I think they can run the football more effectively. With Villanueva, it really comes down to just it's not really in his control. But you just hope the one play that maybe he struggles, it doesn't result in a game-breaking type play the way that it has in the past.
I think Mason's got to watch his deep drops in here and make sure he helps his tackles out a little bit too.
That's a really good point. I did think Rudolph did a really nice job and a better job compared to the previous 2 weeks against the Dolphins and the Colts of being able to hitch and climb in the pocket against the Rams. So I think if he continues to do that and not get depth and invite the rush, and that's going to help him out a whole lot.
Look, tackles are going to get beat sometimes around the edge. So quarterbacks can help their tackles out sometimes by, if given the opportunity to step up, third and long. It's a time where you have to sit there in the pocket a little bit on maybe a 7-step drop initially there to let things develop. Hopefully if the interior part of the portion of the line can do their job and in blitz situations the back does the right thing and pick things up. Good point. Rudolph's got to help his tackles out on occasion that maybe they will get beat around the edge there. You got to make those defensive ends work back into the pocket from the backside in a lot of situations, especially when you're dealing with some as talented as the guy as Myles Garrett is.
Absolutely. A tackle's pass set is tied to the drop of the quarterback. So if the quarterback gets deeper than the intended drop, the way it's drawn up, then the tackle's set screwed and the play's going to be in trouble. So you're absolutely right. A quarterback's got to help out his pass pro as well. As a secondary for the Browns, they got some big names with Denzel Ward and Greedy Williams and our old friend Morgan Burnett. But I think you got to go after and test a young corner and Greedy Williams and see what he can do on the bright lights of our Thursday game.
Somebody's going to have to cover Juju. And whoever doesn't.
I mean, I assume Ward's going to be covering Juju.
Right. So I mean, you're going to have to go after Greedy. Who's going to be their nickel in this one?
That's a good question.
I meant to ask Scott that.
Yeah, because Murray is out. Randall's been banged up a little bit. I'm not sure. That is a good question. I can try to look at some snap counts, but that's a fair point.
Yeah, and look, I mean, is someone going to be, is a guy like Denzel Ward going to be able to function? They're going to obviously they're going to have to pay Juju wherever he lines up a lot of attention. You would expect that there are going to be some bracket kind of robber type stuff, kind of what the Steelers tried to do or did do with Cooper Kupp. You got to pick. I make Deontay Johnson or James Washington beat me. I cannot have Juju beating me. Now, obviously, there's going to be some situations, some one-on-one situations where you're going to have to try to throw the ball Juju's way and hope he can make the play in those situations there. But I think there's going to be some tasty matchups for guys like James Washington and Deontay Johnson in this one against Greedy and whoever whatever the other extra defensive back is in this one.
Looks like T.J. Carey is going to play in the slot for them. So, yeah, I mean, it comes back to just what we said the last couple weeks, where every team wants to take away Juju. Everyone knows that. That's not a secret. Never really was starting this season. It's now about Deontay Johnson continuing to impress, and James Washington continues to play the best football of his career.
And look, if Deontay starts making a few more plays, around here, they're going to start loosening things up for Juju a little.
Yeah, I think Mason talked about that. If these guys keep making plays, and teams might have to start thinking about, doing something different than doubling Juju the entire game if Johnson's burning you for 5 catches, 80 yards, and a score every single week.
And, we talked about Vance McDonald earlier. There's probably going to be some instances here where you get him a nice matchup. Joe Schobert's all over the place. I mean, but he is a guy I think out in space that you want to, if you can get him, matched up a couple of times here on a guy like McDonald or Nick Vanette. I think maybe you try to take advantage of that. Joe Sherbert really good against the run. You got to get a body out on him second level. You got to get off these combos and get a body out on him and block him up. Mac Wilson's had his moments, but he's obviously not there yet as well.
Yeah, I mean, his coverage was his strength at Bama. He was playing a sub-package guy, and I think he's made some plays in coverage this year, but obviously a young 4th, 5th-round pick linebacker playing every down for them. You can probably take advantage of that.
Are you surprised they dealt my boy Jannard Avery away?
Well, he wasn't really playing for them, was he?
No,
right?
He
went
wasn't.
to Philadelphia, right? And, yeah, I don't know why he wasn't because, I mean, the guy was super talented. But, hey, I guess that worked out for the Steelers.
Yeah, not much depth there at linebacker, though, right, for them?
Yeah, I'm not even sure. I mean, they got Wilson, they got Schobert. I mean, Kirksey is hurt, right? Because I think he's only played 2 games. Kirksey's a really good linebacker, so that their depth is hurting because of the trade and because of the injuries.
Right. So, look, I mean, I think it goes back to kind of what we said. Can they run against a Browns defense that should be able to be run on in this game? If they can't, it's going to be interesting to watch.
Yeah. Anything else with this game? Cleveland offense, defense, special teams that sticks out to you? I think it's really just about playing your game and just playing in control and on a short week, just doing what you do well and hoping that's enough to win. Yeah,
I'm not expecting either team to run away from each other in this one.
Right.
For sure. Gonna come down to maybe 1 or 2 plays in this one. Did a team turn the football over? Was there a long return in this one? It's just going to be that kind of game. The challenges that a short week present, I think, are going to manifest itself for both teams in this game.
I think Cam Hayward said it well yesterday. Don't be the team that makes the fatal error. These games can be sloppy because they're short weeks because the Browns have a head coach dealing with this for the first time. Steelers have a quarterback dealing with this for the first time. So there's a chance there for a lot of sloppy play. So if you're the team that's more fundamentally sound, you're probably going to win this one.
If you can come out, and it's a big if, a couple of times we've seen in like some prime time, I don't know if it was Thursday night or Sunday night games or both or Monday night games. We've seen, we go into this game expecting a close matchup here, say against the Chiefs or the Panthers or something like that, and they come out and they jump on them right away. This is a game. I think the Browns are one of those teams that, man, if you jump on them right away, say the defense makes a big play, gives the offense a short field to punch it in, maybe you get a 3-and-out and the offense can come down and put some point. I think if you jump on this Browns team real quick, they'll fold like a card table.
This Steelers team starts like a 20-year-old lawnmower, though, so starting early has not been their forte, but I hope so.
Right, but I mean, we have seen this team over the years get off to some quick starts, though.
Sure, over the years, but not this year.
Right,
I mean,
if there's one game to do it,
yeah, this would be it.
This would be it here. So, very, very physical game. Which team? Once again, I think when we get to the Friday show, we're recapping this. I think we're talking about, man, can you believe X team running the ball so well played a big part in this game.
I wholeheartedly agree. Now, who we talking about winning here, Dave? I'll make a prediction right now. Who you got in this one?
Man, just I'm drinking the. I got a whole pitcher full of that Steelers defensive Kool-Aid right now. What they did against the Rams and Cooper Kupp specifically was just phenomenal. And our buddy Tom Mead writes for us. Put up an excellent GIF in the fourth quarter, an end zone view of, unfortunately, Cam Hayward tipped a pass.
And that's unfortunate because
Minka had a pick six, and you could you pull that GIF. There's certain ones that you pull up and you sit there and you just watch it over and over, and it's like 2.5 seconds, 3 seconds. If Hayward doesn't do his job 100% and get a hand up, and that Minka's walking back to the house with another one.
Right.
I mean, there's no two ways around it. And the defense is just playing so good right now. Obviously stopping the run is my biggest concern with this. If the Browns come out and start running downhill right away, breaking off chunks, getting Baker Mayfield where, 3rd and 3 situations where you don't know exactly what they're going to do, and they can take some shots, hold on to the football and take some shots downfield. That's where it becomes scary for the Steelers defense in this. I'm going to bet that the Steelers do their job in this one. Defense does their job, and the offense does just enough in this one to survive it. I was on a podcast the other day. I threw out a score prediction, so I got to stick with that one as well too. I think a Boswell field goal wins this. One of these oddball scoregami, look it up kind of scores. 19-18 Steelers.
Oh, I like it. How many? Is that scoregami? 19-18?
I don't know. Look it up.
Let me check it. Yeah, I'm going to check it. I'm a little more conventional than you. I'm going to go Steelers 21, Cleveland. I'll go 16. I think Cleveland's not been efficient in the red zone, so I'm going to go with the 16 number.
So you think the defense is going to be up to the task as well too, basically, and you're along the lines with me. You think the offense can do enough not to step on their own feet?
Yeah, I'm with you. I've doubted this team for 2 weeks now. I picked against them. I mean, it'd be a crime if I picked against them again. Now, of course, the Steelers will lose this one because I picked them.
No, don't think like that. But I mean, look, we both had. I think we both were justified in picking against them last week.
Yeah, I mean, hey, and I'm happy to be wrong. But yeah, I think the way the defense has played, it's just been remarkable. I think the offense played better than what the numbers indicate last week. I think if they avoid some of those sloppy mistakes, I think they're just a more well-prepared team with a head coach that's been there, done it before, is going to have this group more ready than Freddie Kitchens, who can't even get this team in the end zone on 8 straight plays from the 1-yard line, and can't figure out a challenge or a timeout situation or when to take a timeout. So let alone getting your whole team ready for a Thursday game. So I'm going Pittsburgh in this one. By the way, that is not scoregami, which surprises me. 1918's happened twice in NFL history. The last happened in 97, Tampa Bay beating the Cardinals. But I like where your head's at.
can I get a Johnny Holton catch this game?
Oh,
I
my
want
God,
me.
right?
I want. You know what? You remember going back to the preseason where they moved him around a little bit more. You thought about maybe in some. And here's another thing. We're seeing a little bit more empty on offense, right?
Yeah, they've been motioning guys out. Again, I think that's just part of the comfort that now that you're playing at home. On the road, you might, on a short week, you're probably not being as fun with it. But yeah, I mean, you see the comfort, and again, I think that bye week kind of lets you reset and tailor this offense to Rudolph.
You know that big play that Holton had in the preseason there after the catch. I mean, it was like a 1-yard pass and a 55-yard run, or something. Why not try to get the ball to him out in space on a quick slant or something in this game? You know,
big body with some speed. Sure.
Because look, if you have him out on the field, they're going to be anticipating that he's going to try to be winning over the top. So a corner's probably going to be cheating them off a little bit anyway. You know,
yeah, I like Greedy Williams coming out, but the guy doesn't tackle too well. Holton on him. That's a matchup. Other thing I want to mention, I keep forgetting to say this. I wouldn't be surprised if the Browns tried a little trick play. I know Odell Beckham Jr. passed. He's got 2 attempts this year on a short week. Team trying to find an edge against a Steelers team that's playing well defensively. Don't be surprised if this team comes out early, this Browns team throwing a pass from a receiver to, Odell Beckham to Jarvis Landry down the right sideline on the first play of the game. I think it's possible.
Okay, maybe that'd be too bad. The Friday night questions tonight. I would say, all right, I'll pose it to you then. I'll get my answer this way. True or false? A Browns player other than Baker Mayfield will complete a pass in this game.
Complete or attempt?
Complete.
Oh, I'm making
it tough for you.
Yeah, you're making it tough. I think they're going to attempt one. Completing it is anyone's guess. I'll say true. I've gone this far. I might as well go the whole way and say, yeah, they complete it. But yeah, watch out for those tricky Cleveland Browns. I could see them doing something just because they're trying to find an edge. They're trying to get some way, and with how well the Steelers defense is played conventionally, I'm sure the Browns are saying we got to do something unconventional to move the ball through the air.
Do you try to spread them out maybe with Jalen Samuels and try to get him on a matchup in this game?
Yeah, I'm not opposed to it. I mean, Samuel's strength has been playing in space, but I'm ready to see a whole heaping, just buffet line of James Conner because I'm tired of seeing these running backs struggle. I want to get James Conner out there and get my money's worth from him.
Not on second and longs, though, please.
Not on second and longs, right?
But they're going to do that. They're going to be 3. There will be 3 second and 7 or longer runs in this game at a minimum. Here's the thing: run good early. Let you run late, and hopefully you can run late once you run successfully early. I sure as hell hope we're talking about. This is not the game, I don't think, where you want to say, all right, Mason, go win it for us.
Yeah, but I don't want them to be super conservative either with the mindset of we just can't turn the football over. That's not going to win you games against anybody in the NFL.
Right. Well, I'm not saying run, pass. Yeah.
No, I'm not saying that. But I mean, we've seen times with this year where this offense has gone into a shell, and you can't have that mindset if you want to win Thursday.
All right. It feels like a no-win for some reason. It feels like a no-win situation for the Steelers this week from a narrative standpoint, because if they beat the Browns on a short week, the narrative is going to be, well, they should beat the Browns. Look at them. This isn't the Browns team we thought they were going to be. Freddie Kitchens isn't doing a good job with them. The Steelers should have beat them. Even with the Steelers defense so much better than people imagine, they should have beat them. However, if they lose to this team, it's going to be, see, the Steelers can't even beat a bad team that they should beat here. Does it kind of feel that way to you? I mean, obviously the win-win situation here is the win,
mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. I don't care about narratives. There were a lot of narratives about this team when they were 1-4, for myself included, that don't mean a thing anymore. I just care about getting the victory, putting yourself 6-4, and really, in a good place for a playoff spot. So get the win, and I don't care what any naysayer says.
Is this more of a must-win for the Browns than it is the Steelers?
Yeah, I mean, Browns are 3-6. They drop this one 3-7. The season's over. The Steelers can survive if they drop to 5-5. It's obviously both teams really need this victory. It'd be huge for Pittsburgh to go 6-4, get 2 games above 500, pick up an AFC North victory. But I mean, just if you had to make me choose, it's obviously a bigger game for Cleveland, maybe even Freddie Kitchens' future than the Steelers.
Yeah, if the Steelers win this game, you of course get the extended time off there, and then you get the Bengals after that, and you got to be feeling pretty comfortable about that. And then obviously having beaten the Browns and the Browns virtually being out of it at that point, you kind of wonder, you would think that the Steelers would be the home favorites against the Browns the following week as well too. So
you got a chance to go 8-4 here.
Man,
I don't want to look
you
big
really
picture,
do. You really do.
Yeah, you beat the Browns. I don't want to say you're going to beat the Bengals because I don't want to assume anything AFC North football, but you're also going to be the odds-on favorite there. Then you're playing the Browns again. You go 8-4. Provided there's no collapse the way there was last year, you're making the playoffs.
Yeah, and here's the thing too, though. If you lose this game and the Ravens win, which they should, right? You are square in wild card territory then.
If you lose it and Baltimore wins?
Yeah, if you lose this game and Baltimore wins, you're going to have to hope for some sort of monumental collapse by Baltimore. And looking at their schedule right now, whew.
Yeah, use it to kiss the division goodbye. So yeah, that'd be pretty big to pick up the victory this weekend.
All right. So both of us have the Steelers winning. So we'll see how that turns out.
All right, Dave. Let's get to some reader emails. I'm sure we have a couple here to close out the show.
Oh man, I forgot all about those.
Did you really?
I get to, I get to rambling here.
All right. I'll vamp here a little bit, but yeah, I think it'll be a good game. And again, I'm going Pittsburgh just because I think they're going to be the more well-prepared team. But of course, at the same time I say that, they got to start out better because they've just been terrible, digging themselves some big holes really the entire season, but especially the last 2 weeks coming out of the bye week, and they can't start slow against the Browns.
All right, Lou Munns writes in. Munns is in funds. Thank you for that, Lou. Hey, all. I'm born and raised North Side Steelers fan, living in Cleveland, and have been listening for nearly 10 years. Bless your heart, haven't listened to me for 10 years, Lou. I don't know how you do it. The Steelers will see a ton of two-back sets on Thursday with Chubb and Hunt, with Hunt lead blocking at times, and RPOs with Hunt coming out of the backfield for a pass. How will Pittsburgh defend this? Will Vince be in there to check the run? Will Bush be covering Hunt out of the backfield? I believe this will be the number one challenge for Thursday night. We're with you, Lou. By the way, the Colbert trade I disliked the most was Shamarko Thomas for a future third. The trade for Boykin from Philly for a third was a head scratcher as well. Was
third? That was for a fifth.
Yeah, I thought that was for a later pick than a third there with Brandon Boykin there. Shamarko Thomas. Okay, we get that.
Well, Shark was a mid-draft trade up. I'm not considering those in the way I consider a trade for a Minkah Fitzpatrick, where you're trading for a player already on a different team.
All right, thank you both, and keep up the good work. Lou, thanks for writing in. Anything more to comment on his concern about that pony backfield?
No, it's well founded.
I'm jealous. I'm jealous they get to run that.
Yeah, it's well founded. Maybe the Steelers run a little bit of that if they're going to go with this ground and pound attack, getting James Conner back. But yeah, Chubb's a great player. They run outside zone well. You got to play Devin Bush a lot to defend the perimeter run. So it's going to be a hassle because you don't see Pony too often. You're on a short week. You got two talented backs. They're going to give the Steelers some fits.
As far as Vince goes, we'll wait and see. He's good against the run, man.
But who are you taking off the field? You're taking off Barron, communicator, or Bush, the guy that's going to be your best asset in defending some of those tosses and outside zone runs. So I don't think Vince is going to play a whole lot. First and 10, maybe 15 snaps again this week.
All right. From Jesse Robles writes in, do you think because of Matt Filer swap that B.J. Finney feels like the Steelers think less of him and might not even want to negotiate a new deal with the Steelers now, even if they were thinking about this the coming offseason? Or thinking outside the box, do you think the Steelers figured they can get by swapping Filer inside and not playing Finney to keep him from blowing up onto every other team's radar if he had kept Donald in check for most of the game to keep him affordable? Because I thought he's been playing great for the past couple of years. He's had a chance to fill in. Love the podcast. Keep up the great work, fellas. Jesse Robles. Jesse, do you have a tinfoil hat? I think you're trying to think this thing out way too much here. I don't think B.J. Finney's feelings are hurt right now because of what transpired, and I also don't think the Steelers made that move thinking, boy, what happens if B.J. Finney handles it? What's that going to do to his price there? I think this was just sheer effort to get bigger, stronger bodies on the field to help kind of save the flag, if you will, against a front that was going to be tough to start to slow down regardless in Aaron Donald and company. I didn't really take it. I questioned it, but I personally didn't take it as a huge slight to B.J. Finney. Alex?
Well, I don't think Finney's feeling too good about that, going from starting next man up, the team preaches, and then being benched like that. But I don't think it was to hide Finney. If he plays well, you got to pay him more. But it's hard to imagine that, knowing this, that they're benching Finney for that game, that now they're going to go ahead and cut Foster and re-sign Finney for a guy that they didn't want to play in this particular game. Like, I feel like Finney's just going to walk at the end of the year.
It's possible. Look, I mean, they're going to be up against it anyway. If you keep Foster, it's going to make it harder to sign. Finney's going to be on a lot of teams' radars regardless.
Yeah, and again, you're not going to have a roster of both Foster and Finney on your team next year. It's one or the other.
So, how bad was B.J. Finney's feelings hurt? I guess is what Jesse's asking here.
I'm sure he didn't love it. But I don't really care about someone's feelings. But I think that tells you probably that this team doesn't plan on having B.J. Finney on its roster in 2020.
Okay, we'll see if you end up being right here. Let's see. Russ Pagano writes in, early in the second half of the NFL season, it seems the Steelers have found their stride winning. No, wait a minute. That's an older one. I get so many of these damn spam stuff here now. Guest posting opportunities since I put the damn contact form up now. Whatever you do, people, if you want to get an email read on the show, don't use the contact form on SteelersDepot.com because I'm really likely to ignore that at a lot of those at that point because I get so much spam through there. You should be sending your questions to theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. That's the best way to get them through here. Once again, if you use the contact form, it's not likely to make it onto the show. Cody Bailey writes in, people will write in, they'll kind of disguise it now as a question, and it'll be, we'd like to guest post for your site so we can get a link to this site here, that kind of thing here. Good afternoon, Dave and Alex from Cody. I'm a big fan of the show and really enjoy listening to the in-depth analysis of the games. I'm thinking of buying a Minkah Fitzpatrick jersey and I want it badly. Should I get it even though there's a possibility of him changing to number 29 next year? Also, what jerseys do y'all have in your pit collection? Would love to get some feedback. I don't want to tell you the wrong thing, Cody, and you dish out the money and me be wrong and you're holding on to the wrong Minkah jersey here. But I will tell you this. With him being, premier defensive player now in Pittsburgh, and with players, I believe if they switch numbers, they have to buy out inventory, merchandise inventory, kind of thing as well too. I would hedge a bet to say Minkah stays at his current number. I'm not going to guarantee it. I mean, there's nothing to care. He's still on a road. You probably still have a lot of, what we would think of as expendable income kind of thing until he gets his next contract either. And by the way, he's playing so damn good. Why would you want to mess things up and change your number? So if I were to bet right now, and this is pure speculation, I would think Minkah's going to hold on to the jersey number that he has and not change it. However, don't come looking for me if he changes it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the safe thing would be just to wait until the summer and see if he does change. But I can't tell you what to do with your money. Dave, what jerseys do you have?
None.
That was a good question. You don't have any jerseys.
Yeah, I sold before, having to downsize and all, moved before and all like that. And I wasn't a big jersey buyer anyway.
What jerseys did you have before you sold them?
Oh man, Kevin Green.
Oh, nice. That's why you wanted Kevin Green to be the outside linebacker.
Jerome Bettis. I'm trying to think of. I think those were the final two that I had there.
Wow.
Look, and that buying those was way back when authentic ones cost you an arm and a leg too. So, I mean, I've had several other kind of non-authentic ones, I guess, in the past that A companies have sent me and stuff like that. But most of those, I was more of a hat guy, Alex.
Oh, okay. You got a lot of hats still?
Yeah, I still have a large collection of hats there. That I never wear, any old snapbacks and all like that. I'll probably sell them. I've never been, and the older I've gotten, outside of card collecting and all like that, maybe some signed pictures here and there. I never have been mini helmets. I had some mini helmets for a while. I still have a few of them signed around here somewhere, and all Cordell Stewart, all like that. But never was a big kind of memorabilia fan.
Yeah, I'm not crazy overboard. I got some hats sitting next to me I've had signed over the years. I got a Heinz Ward one. I got Justin Hartwig and Ike Taylor on the same hat for some reason. John Decker, I think I have one. Kerry Davis. But from jerseys, I don't have any jerseys I wear currently. The one I have in my closet from when I was a kid in high school was, I think I got Ben, I got Willie Parker, and then the prized possession, the Chidi Iwoma signed Chidi Iwoma jersey is my number one.
You got that one framed?
I don't have it framed. I need that. It's hanging up in the closet. I do need to get it framed though, because that's my number one Steelers. I got a lot of T-shirts. I got a million Steelers T-shirts. That's kind of where I put my money at.
Cody, here's the thing too. I remember that old commercial. It's probably Alex doesn't remember. Messy Marvin. I'm Messy Marvin. I eat spaghetti. I get spaghetti on me. I'm that kid there. And on top of it, I'm obsessive compulsive. I'm mania bipolar. I wear the same set of clothes every day.
Okay.
Okay. The same set of clothes. It's just, less things to think. I'm Albert Einstein,
The creature of habit, you said earlier.
Yeah. Look, it is a zoo. I am a zoo to put up with. I have these weird habits, and I'm obsessive compulsive on top of it. So all that stuff kind of manifested itself after I quit drinking years ago. Go figure. But anyway, that's where we're at. Personally, Cody, I think you're safe to buy one, but don't come hunting me down. If I'm wrong there. Evan Furnish writes in. Long-time reader, long-time listener. I'm 20 years old, and I recommend this site to every Steelers fan I know. Thank you for that, Evan. Question, watching the games, I feel as if our passing game can, for the most part, be broken up into two categories, either design short passes, running back tight end screens, or long developing deep comeback routes. I feel as if quick two-step 8 to 12-yard passes are few and far between. This leads to screen and checkdowns. Have you noticed the same thing? What do you believe is the culprit? I feel as unless it's a screen, the routes we run do not give Rudolph a quick first read. Not relevant, but cut Switzer, he says. Bonus question, if you have time, at this time, do you expect coaching personnel changes by the beginning of next year? I'll hang up and listen. P.S. I read The League, and it's a fantastic overview of the history of the NFL. I'm doing a research paper on replay in the NFL, and that gave me a good excuse to read it. That, of course, is John Eisenberg's book, The League. So I'm sure John will be tickled pink to know that we got an email on that. So thank you for that great email, Evan. Answer his questions, Alex.
About personnel, was asking about coaching changes after this year?
Well,
no, I don't.
Yeah, coaching changes first.
Yeah, I don't believe there's going to be any coaching changes. I think Butler's probably going to come back just based on the performance of the job the defense has done. They're not going to rock the boat there. About the questions about the schematics of the offense, you have to look at the numbers. It's hard to do an eyeball test with that kind of thing. I do think it's evolved more and it's become more, I don't even know what the phrase would be, but it's become more varied. You've seen more of the deep stuff. You've seen more of the, 5-step drop kind of thing. So it's not been just feast or famine, I guess is the way to describe it. It's become more inclusive in terms of the concepts that they run after the bye week. But I mean, it's fair to say that it's been a lot of short stuff with Mason Rudolph, but it's also been a lot of short stuff with Ben last year. They ran a ton of RPOs and elongated run game stuff. So I don't know if that's new to Rudolph. I think that's always kind of been part of the Fichtner offense.
How funny we forget past seasons, right?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, literally, you go back and look at what Ben did. Now, outside of Ben having longer, shorter passes, that's my new phrase: longer, shorter passes. I mean, you look at his average, his intended net air, his intended air yards, his completed air yards. You look at, I wrote an article at this at the end of the season, I think, how he was captain check down or captain, short dink and dunk is what I said. Captain dink and dunk last year. He was either checking it down or he was going up over the top with it. And it wasn't until the second half of the season that he started to dial in, down the field stuff. Now, was that the only stuff he did? No. But once again, a lot of this has to go off of reads, what opposing defenses give you. Are you seeing more zone type stuff where they're laying off? Are you seeing more man-to-man, which would lead you to maybe to go downfield a little bit more? It's all dependent. I'm not thinking, I know it's easy to do when you're watching a TV version and judging on play success and having the instant result bias there. But I think they're doing a fine job of varying things up. I think people said earlier in the league, nobody's getting open. Why Fiedner needs to do things to get guys more open. People have been getting open. You just got a young quarterback that you're wanting to mature on a game by game basis here. Are there things we'd like to probably see more of? Probably. I'd like to see a little bit more mesh. Maybe. I'd like to see a little bit more RPO than they've used.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there's just been obvious and consistent improvement each week with Rudolph's play and in the offense opening up, and that's the thing I care about.
Let's see. What else do we have here? How are we doing on time, Alex? 2 hours yet?
Yeah, we're around 2 hours. Probably do one more here and get out of here.
Okay. Mike Schertzer writes in, I think the D will eventually revert to the mean, and the current tear of 5 turnovers a game has to end. But I like to keep as much of this D the same next year. And he's got this bolded. I really want to keep Bud, but I agree with Dave that it's doubtful. I agree that restructuring Ben hurts a lot in 2 years, and I want more than a 1-year run. Do you think Ben would be open to an extension that reduces his cap hit next year and spreads the pain over more time, even a dummy year or two? Not sure if the front office would be open to this because it means mortgaging some of the time after Ben leaves. But we've done a couple of un-Steeler-like things this year. I'd like to sacrifice a bit of the medium term for a couple of really good kicks at the can at the end of Ben's career, especially if we had the D that looks like this. This might phonetic spelling. Mike sounds like bike. That's it. That's the stuff I need, Mike. Look, could you, I suppose, maybe take Ben's roster bonus, add on a couple of false years there and maybe spread that out a little bit to give you cap relief? Sure. As I've said throughout this entire conversation here when we're talking about Bud Dupree and possibly keeping him, you can keep any guy really that you want. How badly do you want to massage the cap? How much do you want to kick it down? Look, even if you add on kind of like some false years there at the end, you're still going to have to eat dead money if he doesn't play out whatever years there are. So all of it comes due the moment he's not on the roster anymore. Do you want to go that run? I suppose you can. I suppose that's and how much do you really save that way? I mean, yeah, you could turn a chunk of his signing, a chunk of his roster bonus, a chunk of, and that's only what, 12.5 million. You can take a chunk of his base salary. You can add on some false years there. But would Ben even want to do that?
That's where I was going to go. I don't know if Ben's interested in doing that. I don't think he's going to make those determinations about his future career. I think he signed this contract, going to basically play out this contract and kind of take it from there, or at least maybe to 1 year before and take it from there. So I don't think it's even something. I think it's a non-starter for Ben. So I don't think it's going to work.
Yeah, look, I'll say it from now until we know what happens. You can find a way here with Bud, but to me, it starts first and foremost with tagging him. I don't think you get around. I just don't think you sign him back without tagging him first. And you have to have room for the tag from a cap perspective first, and then go from there. And you have to be prepared for him to play under the tag all year if you can't get a deal done with him. So you act like you want to add something there.
Well, I was just going to say, bouncing off of that, with Dupree, you also know TJ Watt's coming too. And can you make it work? Do you have the cap allocation to get Watt and Dupree signed? Because Watt's going to be even more expensive than Bud Dupree. And Watt may want an extension after this year. He's eligible for one, right?
After three years, right?
Yeah. So
after 3 years.
Third year. So, he could ask for one, and he would be deserving of one. And he's going to be one of the highest paid pass rushers in football when he gets paid.
Yeah, and you might have to pay him this year.
Yeah, he certainly will deserve it. You certainly have a great case to want to get paid. So you have to make sure you can fit it into the cap, not only with Dupree's contract, but making sure Dupree's contract doesn't prohibit you from signing TJ Watt to a long-term deal.
And I think you're going to want to get Hayward done, and I think Alejandro's going to have his hand out too.
Yep. So we'll see. We'll talk about it a lot more in the offseason.
All right, Bryce, I know you got one in here. I know you keep we've read a lot of yours on the air, Bryce. So resend this back to me or a different form of question next show. We gotta start getting this thing wrapped up here. Alex, anything else to add? Keep your fingers crossed. Thursday night, Steelers, it would be a big win for them. Yet another big win if they could pull a Division I off. We've said from the get-go since this team had the bad start, boy, division play is going to be huge moving forward here, and you can get a key one right here against Cleveland Thursday night. You and I will be back on Friday to wrap it all up. We'll give you our picks. I can't wait to get through this short week, Alex. All right, follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast at gmail.com. If you like what we do and you want to donate to the cause, go to SteelersDepot.com. Hit the donate button up right navigational bar to donate to us. Appreciate everybody who has and continues to do so. Also, if you want an ad-free version of SteelersDepot.com, you can get that by going to SteelersDepot.com. Hit the ad-free button. Sign up for $25 via PayPal for 1 calendar year ad-free version of the sites. We get a lot of great feedback. I think you get about 1 or 2 of those signups, maybe a week when it comes to that. A lot of people like that, having an ad-free version of the site, especially if they use mobile version and all like that. So thank you for everybody that's taken advantage of that so far. Alex, until Friday, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex Kozora.